Dr. Bhanwala for this session. He's going to speak to us on uh, how NABARD, as an existing social enterprise promotion ecosystem, can play a role in the context of SSC in the present milieu. So, as we all know, Dr. Bhanwala is actually former chairman of NABARD, former executive director of Infrastructure Finance Company Limited, IIFCL India, and also served as CMD, Ex-IMD for nearly 6 months. He spearheaded the development of credit enhancement initiative and worked as a senior vice president of Ireland Fresh Water Limited. And I must also mention actually here that it was actually in his leadership, the study on roadmap of a social enterprise ecosystem as a precursor for SSC was commissioned in India, and we got an opportunity to work with NABARD. I extend a very hearty and affectionate welcome to Dr. Bhanwala. Sir, over to you to speak on how NABARD's existing social enterprise promotion ecosystem can play a role in the context of SSC. Thank you.
Thank you straight away to you, Dr. Saab. And it has been really heartening to listen to all the people coming from various backgrounds. Somebody talking about from social perspective across countries in a roadmap, Dr. Bala, and concern for NGOs in terms of 3 factors when you conceive a stock exchange: reliability, inclusiveness, and liquidity, as also dimensions of shared platforms, strengths that which Mr. Joshi was giving. I have 6 things to share with you. I will not repeat what has been said. First of all, every society has some problems, and we have to solve those problems. And that is how the impact gets created. Every society which has problems needs solutions, needs finance, needs organization. So these 3 things require exchange of, they require an exchange mechanism of money, ideas, information, which brings in technology, which brings in platforms, etc. We also know that the social problems have got a lot of variability from one region to another. In a country like India, with our experience, I can say where the -40° and +49° exists. So the problems are quite different from one region to another. So what weightage to which impact parameter? So this defining the entire story of impact measurement, which is a base for a refinement in finance flow to either the NGO sector, non-profit, or the enterprise, social enterprise, which is sustainable and for bit of profit. This requires a thorough understanding of how do we define impact. And also, health would never have been perceived as an important dimension as it is being felt now during COVID days. So the sense of extent of deprivation in society also defines to some extent what will be the impact and when. So this evolution of impact measurement parameters is a regular phenomenon. I think we need credible entities who can measure impact, and that's how the refinement in funding can happen. That's what was conveyed by the last speaker. Second point which I'm going to say is, which Dr. Balu was also trying to say, NABARD has worked with almost 4,000 FPOs, NGOs, and has close to more than 3,500 FPOs also they formed. What you have seen is there is a variety of these organizations, and some of them perish, some of them get cannibalized, some of them are one-man entities, they go away. So one needs entities. If you're thinking of refining any process, you need institutions to rate them well. And I'm 100% sure an effective rating mechanism for social impact institutions or for social organizations will go a long way in propelling it for a better listing and better trading in the stock exchange as well, because that brings in a better awareness. Now, once we do that, then our NGOs will have to understand certain things. Today, NGOs they get registered, and very few of them follow these. 4 or 5 things are very, very important for those NGOs to comprehend, that if this refined flow of money has to happen, then these things are necessary. One first of all is they should all adopt a transparency code within their boards. Many of them don't have. There should be a gender policy. There should be environment adherence framework. There should be compliance policy with each NGOs, which I hardly find. There should be good fiduciary standards for NGOs, and also good, well laid down governance mechanisms, which can be broadly laid down by some entity, research center, and also should define conflict of interest very well. Because I see many of smaller NGOs, owners, one-man association, conflict of interest of a promoter and the social objective is quite often, you could see it's palpable. That's what I'm going to say there. Now, this is third point I would say. Fourth is, once you start hunting for, rightly Mr. Gupta said defined demand side and supply side. So once you look at the entities which will be required, so one should have some database, framework, repository of knowledge, research. So there is in this report there is a mention of information repositories, but I think this repository information should be on diversity of scales, various dimensions, which will help also the rating and also building up analytical framework in the future use. The way the data for some of the Bloomberg and others are having for some of the institutions where investments happen in the stock exchanges in the similar fashion, this has to be built up. Then measurement and regular monitoring is important. It's not just a case of reporting, but a regular updation. So we require ecosystem for that angle, and IT framework, which will be partly borrowed from the stock exchanges. Fifth dimension, which I feel, the moment you start, Dr. Balu clearly said that some of the smaller NGOs may lose out, or NPOs may lose out in this process, because there is a discussion on tax incentives and CSR money also flowing from this. So if the people who are investing for CSR, if they find a platform to give the money, then the smaller entities would lose that kind of money. There's certainly a competitive angle to this, and which needs to be seen, that NPOs, which otherwise would find it difficult to get listed or to get onboarded for the platform, would also otherwise lose out, but they are meaningfully serving a purpose. Even if you look at 40 years, Dr. Balu's institution, when he started with passion, impact, and hardly anybody would have come. I'm sure Dr. Balu will vouch for it. And subsequently, now it is grown, listed, and all the money will flow. So if all the available money, Kitty, starts flowing towards a refined system, so we have to look at it. That's what the report says, the SEBI report says. I think it should be, the way we define the priority sector in the banks, something should be reserved for the smaller NGOs or certain impact dimensions which are otherwise not being covered, and which require appropriate action at the society level. Next one, I feel, next dimension which I feel from based on the experience I feel is, the NGOs or the social organizations leave out very few, 8-10 of them, bigger ones. They have a high HR turnover. They have they lack the regular capacity building within their own staff because of the poor resource base, and they have poor financial knowledge, and also the salary structure, etc., is not that they can retain people for a long time. And grant flow, it happens during COVID times with larger CSR money going towards one particular source or various other sources. The smaller people, who started their own efforts, have lost out in the entire process. So I think there is requirement for capacity building, hand holding, a regular capacity building for NGOs towards this newer system. So reporting, monitoring, database building and capacity building, unless it takes care and exclusion of non-common, avoiding, let me not say exclusion, avoiding the non-competitiveness vis-a-vis the bigger ones. And also some entities should come forward for pooling of demand, I would say. There should be, rightly somebody said that, the speaker before me, smaller demands need to be brought together, as also the way we have suggested lowering the trading benchmarks even for commodities in the commodity exchange, so that ensuring so that the FPOs can also trade, smaller FPOs can also trade. I think 1,000 tons was the lot size earlier. So similarly, that can also be defined, but certainly some kind of pooling of mechanism needs to be developed. Now, from NABARD side, let me say that in the end, I would also mention, because I was given 10 minutes, I'll stick to 10 minutes itself. We have been the promoters of MCX as well as NCDX. I think we would, although I don't represent NABARD, when I started this initiative with Graham, I was a chairman of NABARD, and I was having that intent in mind, that in some stage, in some form, if the interests are taken care of and it's a reasonable proposition, NABARD may consider, the present management may look at that, of partnering in some kind of display, a social stock exchange coming up. We have from NABARD side been involved in impact funding, including AgTech, venture funding, etc. One of our own funds, along with also by contributing to some other funds, NABARD has got this exposure. We have partnered with almost all the big corporate houses, not by borrowing money, for CSR activities in terms of various our own developmental projects that we run. They come and partner with us. So we know how the CSR funding and what are the reporting parameters and what nuances do they want, and how transparency and monitoring mechanisms need to be built. I think that will be helpful. We have been involved, NABARD has been one of the pioneer institutions among the top 20 in the world and pioneer in the country to get accreditation from Green Climate Fund for our environmental work. I think the future will have a lot of emphasis on environment, and I think NABARD also has significant partnerships with states, bilateral and multilateral entities. We are exclusively funding various infrastructure projects with the states. I think any impact creation would require law and order situation to be in order, as also there is a necessity for I would say that infrastructure be placed. So we are closely involved in many rural areas for infrastructure building. Now we also are very sometimes this impact itself gets multidimensional, and you have to prioritize for which region what is important. For instance, farmers' income is important in Haryana and Punjab and everywhere in the country. That is a mission of our Honorable Prime Minister, and we are working for this. But at the same time, if certain policies or certain crops like rice, etc., are dwindling water, sustainability angles gets into it. So initially you focus on one impact side, and subsequently the other one takes over based on how the situation moves up. So this multi-dimensional aspects for impact measurement is a key in the long run to take it forward. We have the financial muscle in NABARD as well. We have adopted all the fiduciary standards. That's why we were accredited by the by the UN Climate Fund. And also we have diversified skill sets within NABARD. I think we would be certainly willing to contribute, work closely with NGOs, with the stock exchanges, as well as with the regulators. And Dr. Balu, thank you for pointing out NABARD, though I'm not a part of that institution now, but I'm saying it can closely work with it on this theme with any entity. With this, I thank you for giving this opportunity, and I really compliment you. I have read your report, sir. It gives experience of 14, 15 countries. It gives the roadmap. It tries to very extensively define social organizations, social enterprises. And I mean, we have to come out with our own definition. You rightly said that. Although the entities say that we will not try to define it, the SEBI report, but yes, some kind of, in the long run, if it could be done, it will go a long way. And also, some of the useful suggestions would be there for the SEBI report also in the times to come. I have gone through that. They also say that it's in their attempt is on additionality, incrementality. And they have also come up for separate funding mechanisms, separate instruments for FPOs and for profit entities as well. I think I thank again Graham for giving this opportunity and compliment you, Dr. Park, for the initiative you take. Thank you.